Don't take vitamin D without this. Now, if you're like most people who have issues with brain fog, fatigue, maybe it's weight issues, a thyroid or an autoimmune thyroid issue, or if you have any kind of an immune system issue where you're battling infections like Lyme's disease, Epstein-Barr virus, maybe it's recurring yeast infections, or if you have issues with pain in your body, in your muscles or in your joints, this video is for you. So what do all of these different health concerns have in common? They all require vitamin D as a supporter to help balance them out. Now, how is this, you might ask? Well, vitamin D is an essential fat-soluble vitamin and one of the most important nutrients in the body. In fact, long-term, testing your vitamin D level is one of the most important things you can do in terms of your longevity. So in fact, there's a receptor in every single cell of your body for vitamin D, from gut and immune system support to hormone and metabolic function, even cardiovascular function. Vitamin D is crucial to help us heal and live optimally. Thousands of people that I have tested over the past 2 decades in practice, almost every single one of them is deficient in vitamin D. Let's go through some specific examples of what vitamin D is doing for you on a daily basis. In order to maintain a healthy gut microbiome and gut barrier to prevent things like leaky gut and to reduce gut inflammation, vitamin D is required. This helps protect against food intolerances. So people who have issues with food intolerances, food allergies, gut infections like SIBO, maybe H. pylori or parasitic infections, even irritable bowel disease such as Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, vitamin D is required to help protect against all of that. But also to maintain a healthy thyroid and protect against autoimmune thyroid like Hashimoto's, vitamin D is required. In order to absorb calcium and phosphorus to protect your bone health and prevent things like osteoporosis long-term, vitamin D is required. In order to maintain healthy muscles and therefore healthy joints, you have to have optimal levels of vitamin D in the body. But also to protect your arteries from calcification or blockage from high blood pressure and heart disease, you absolutely need vitamin D. But why is this? Because from a cardiovascular standpoint, vitamin D is a powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory agent. So it protects the lining of the arteries as well as increases something called nitric oxide, and that helps to keep blood pressure balanced. So yes, vitamin D can help you balance blood pressure. Now here's where most doctors and unfortunately the internet articles get it wrong though. If you were to test your vitamin D on a lab, the medical reference range typically shows on most labs a range of 30 to 100 nanograms per milliliter. So just because you're inside of that reference range does not mean your vitamin D level is optimal. In fact, you could be sitting at 35 or 40 within that range, but that is far too low from a clinical perspective. In order to have the greatest energy to keep yourself from getting sick, in order to have proper function of your thyroid and to have great longevity, you want your vitamin D level to be 70 nanograms per milliliter or higher within that range. So 70 or higher is optimal. That ensures that you have the support your body needs to maintain all of its cellular activity. Now, the second problem I see is the daily recommendations given to maintain vitamin D levels, and this is anything you typically read, are way too low. Taking 1,000 or 2,000 international units, IU, of vitamin D daily will not improve nor maintain most people's vitamin D level. So most people I take care of are taking an average of 15 to 20,000 IU daily to get their optimal level. And then once they get to that 70 or higher, then we typically do a dose of 5,000 IU to 10 per day. So if you look at most supplement bottles on the back, if they contain vitamin D, typically you're going to see anywhere from maybe 1,000 IU or less. That's nowhere near what you need. Now, here's the other thing. How about if you were to go in the sunshine, right? People say, hey, if I get a lot of sun, do I get enough vitamin D? Well, absolutely. Get sunshine as much as you can. But if you're out in the sun for 35 to 45 minutes, you typically get about 20,000 IU. The problem is, are you going to be able to consistently do that every single day of the year? The answer is typically no. So I have people who come to see me who have great tans, and yet guess what? Even in the middle of summer, their vitamin D level is low. So it's not just about going out into the sun, and it's not even just about taking enough vitamin D. There's something else that's missing. So if you're out in the sun all the time and you've got a great tan and yet your vitamin D is still low, that's a sign that your immune system and your hormones need more support. That's why vitamin D is stolen to support those parts of the body. This is how I think of it. If a person's vitamin D level is low, they're oftentimes battling an infection such as a gut bug, maybe a bacteria, a parasite, or a virus, even maybe a fungal issue. And here's how it works. No matter how much vitamin D you take, until you knock out that bug or you reduce that pathogen within the body, your vitamin D is still going to be low, because when your immune system's under stress, it's going to steal your vitamin D to support it. So how about food sources of vitamin D? Well, you can do eggs, you can do fatty fish such as salmon, you can do red meat, liver, healthy butter like ghee, but it's still not going to be enough to build deficient levels of vitamin D. So supplementation is essential for most people. So how do you ensure that you not only build your vitamin D to an optimal level, but you also absorb that vitamin D and you properly utilize it throughout your entire body? Well, number one, vitamin D should always be taken in the D3 form, not in vitamin D2 form, which is plant-based and it's synthetic and it does not get absorbed as well in the body. Also, vitamin D2 is not well researched in terms of longevity. When you look things up or you research on the internet, whereas D3 has thousands of research articles proving its efficacy. So you want to make sure you're always doing a vitamin D3 form anytime you're doing that. Number two, you want to make sure anytime you take D3, you take it with vitamin K. I always recommend you do that in a combination supplement. Don't try to take these things separate. So understand that when you are building vitamin D within the body, it is helping to pull calcium into the bloodstream, but you need vitamin K to take that calcium and push it into the bones. That keeps your bones healthy and it keeps the arteries from getting calcified. So always take D3 with K2 together so that you have the proper ratio with those essential fats in the body. I always recommend people take a combination of D3 and K2 supplement together so that they have the correct ratio of each vitamin. It's not just as simple as taking 15 or 20,000 IU daily of vitamin D and you're good. You must take some key nutrients with that vitamin D to ensure you're balancing calcium and other nutrients throughout the body. This is also why I want people to make sure that when they're doing D3 and K2, they always take it with magnesium. So this is the third thing that's essential with vitamin D supplementation. See, magnesium is essential. When I'm taking vitamin D, it helps me to absorb, activate, and then metabolize that vitamin D within the body. And magnesium is something that most people are also deficient in. So I always recommend a minimum of at least 200 milligrams a day of magnesium with your D3 and K2. And that's going to work for most adults. If you need a little bit more magnesium, the nice thing about magnesium is if you were to take a little too much, you'll know because your body will just flush it out through the bowels. So you'll have a little bit of a loose bowel. You will not become toxic when it comes to magnesium. The last point with vitamin D supplementation is to always take vitamin D with food, preferably foods containing healthy fats. It's best done in the morning time with breakfast. And so for me, I'm a big egg person. I also love avocados. So like any of those types of foods are going to be incredible to help you absorb vitamin D and K because they're fat soluble vitamins. So to wrap all of this up, remember that most people are deficient in vitamin D levels, as well as vitamin K and magnesium. Because of this, so many people are building a lot of immune stress. They're building inflammation, risk of gut and hormone imbalance, and many different diseases. The best approach to build optimal levels of 70 nanograms per milliliter is to take vitamin D3 with K2, as well as magnesium together earlier in the day with a meal containing good fats for the best absorption and the best activation of that vitamin D, but also to support all of your cells, your organ systems, and your bodily function for the best possible longevity.